Um,
And for all of you out there, this like when I start getting really depressed, it's stuff like Nicholas is doing that gives me hope. So I'm really excited about representing the future here.
Thank you. Um, so there are other members of the club, like our vice, but I didn't want to kind of overstep my bounds and ask if other people could join. But they are aware of this meeting and they're excited about it. So, um, yeah, let me get started here. So, our mission, uh, recently we went through a whole kind of rebranding of the club to gain more interest among the student body. And so part of that was creating a new mission statement and also kind of renaming the club. It used to be Zero Waste Club, but a lot of people were kind of confused on what we did because of that name. So we rebranded recently to the Environmental Club, and we also came up with our mission statement, which is to promote the well-being of our natural environment while advocating for the reduction of waste within our school community. And so some of the projects that we are trying to get done to complete this mission or to fulfill it is so our first kind of uh, our project with the most traction in the public, because it affects more than just our school, is the petition to get protected bike lanes on Armitage. And the rest of these projects are kind of specific to the school, so they don't have as much like public. There isn't as much public knowledge about them, but some of our other projects are rain, and we'll expand on the presentation, but rain gardens to handle water in the mall area between the freshman and main building where all entrances connect to. Um, the addition of live transit screens near exits and other high traffic areas. Uh, we have two courtyards in the school, and our club has been cleaning up the freshman building courtyard. Um, we've been working with another club to develop a trash sorting robotic arm, and we're also working on some other kind of uh, more complicated projects, like coordinating window AC units, which I'll expand on later, and piloting wind energy. Um, but for the first project we're working on is the petition or to add protected bike lanes to Armitage Avenue. So this map kind of shows where we're mainly targeting and where it kind of affects the school most. And that is a stretch from Sheffield to Clark, which connects the purple and brown line with our school and with the Halstead bus and the Sedgwick bus and also the buses that run along Stockton, like the ones a lot of students take the ones on Clark and Stockton, so this connection would be vital. Um, because while Armitage Avenue does have a bus, it kind of infrequent and it's very crowded after school. And I have seen a lot of students biking along Armitage and along Dickens to get to Clark and other places near it, like Sedgwick. And another issue with the bus running along there is there's a lot of conflict with um, the bus stops and the bike lanes, which is actually what inspired us to start the petition. Was that, for at least my experience, I personally had witnessed uh, sitting on my bus home a biker get hit between the bus and the parked cars. And so that's kind of what inspired me to move forward and try to help out on this project and start it. Um, so as of 2 days ago, our petition was at 981 signatures. And as Mr. Hafner showed on his presentation, Block Club has reported on this. And that was really good for publicity. That's kind of what got this petition traction. And yeah, that's our first kind of most public initiative. Um, and then our second initiative to go through is the implementation of rain gardens in that mall area. Um, so as I said before, all of the entrances and most of the exits are connected to the mall. So if you need to get to school and you're going home, you're going to be going through the mall. And it's also a main connector. Let me go back to this map. It's also a main connector from Armitage to Oz Park, because it is a fully pedestrianized area. So it's a safe area for bikes and other pedestrians and strollers and uh, people who would rather not have that conflict with cars like seen on Armitage and Halstead and those busier corridors. So it's a pretty popular area for being such a short path that really you would think would only really connect to high school. It's a pretty popular connector to Oz Park. Um, but yeah, this project aims to reduce the flooding effects seen in this mall. It's, I believe Mr. Hafner has worked on a project before close to the mall in the auditorium near here on Dickens, like the Dickens pathway.
Yeah. For reference, everybody, that was one of the original Space to Grow projects through Open Lands. And it was one of the first ones. So it was well done, but it's getting to its sort of useful life. And that's what Nicholas is working on.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of a major issue now because it's kind of every time there's even a small bit of rain, especially with the 5.5 inches of rain seen this week in like I think it was 90 minutes. I haven't been near there since school's out, but I know it looks worse than this because this was after I I think 1 inch of rain, maybe two. And here near this kind of sit down area next to this hill, um, there you can't see in the photo, but it was about 2 inches of standing water. And so that could be a breeding site for mosquitoes, along with preventing people from actually using this space. So that's kind of a major point of concern. And rain gardens would allow us to address it while not. It's also an alternative to just putting everything to the sewer. Because this would very much improve the like green space along the school while solving an issue. It also, I think, would really beautify the area and would make it a more enjoyable area too. So, um, yeah, that's our second project. This is some of the preliminary planning for possible spaces to implement. Um, right here, this is the pathway that connects Dickens. I'll go back to the map. This pathway from through Oz Park, which is closed off to car traffic, that runs along where Dickens would normally be. And so this area would probably be able to address this flooding concern and also take kind of an underutilized space in general and just make it look nicer too. And then this area along the Orchard Mall, this is kind of a fenced-in area, so we see a lot of potential with this area because you can't step on it, and there's no kind of uh, chaos seen after school. This area is generally unaffected by the thousands of students passing through, the hundreds that walk along this stretch because it's fenced, um, and would also take care of that flooding concern seen in this red circle here. Um, and then our next project is the implementation of transit displays near high traffic areas like exits. Um, so below and on the next slide, there is an example of a program through the CTA that they have provided to create something like this. It's called the DIY Transit Info Display. And it says it's in beta, but it's been in beta for 10 years, I think. So it seems like it's not too popular, but it really fits our use case for kind of promoting students to use transit, um, and also making it easier for those who do because it's live and because it is able to ping a server every couple seconds. And the Venture app can sometimes be a little glitchy. But then here's the video footage of it just kind of going through the different stops near the school. It also integrates with the train tracker as well, so that's helpful because the Brown Line is swamped after school with people because so many students just take it directly from school, um, and walk to the Brown Line. So yeah, it's going through a couple um, lines, and it also goes through alerts and weather, which is helpful. Um, but yeah, this is pretty much it. Um, moving on, so the freshman building courtyard. When I first started at the school, before I even started at the school, this courtyard always kind of seemed interesting to me because it's such a large space. It's a massive footprint, and it's directly in the center of the freshman building, and a lot of classrooms overlook it. And so I really see a lot of potential in the space, and a lot of our members have really been curious about the space, which has been untouched, I believe, for at least 5 years. So this year we kind of led an effort to clean up the space and create plans to allow for a more accessible space in the future. So part of that was cleaning up hundreds of gallons of trash, leaves, and other yard waste, um, because there are a ton of trees in that center too. It's really beautiful. It just needs a little bit of uh, love and care. And while we understand that leaves and decomposing um, yard waste is important to the ecosystem, it was just too much. Like it was probably at least half a foot or a foot of leaves in some areas. So that kind of interrupts like new plants growing in at the start of the season because it's hard to get to the sun when you have to go through a foot of waste before you can do that. Um, And so eventually, after this would probably be at least a 2-year project, but eventually the hope is that we can convert it into like an outdoor classroom space where organizations like the Chicago Wilderness Alliance or Chicago Wilderness Alliance and other important environmental groups could meet with students, or when that law, I believe you guys should probably know more than me about this, but I believe there was a law passed in Illinois that requires some sort of environmental education. Um, and we believe this space would be a great um, area to actually work on those kind of things because you're directly in the environment that you are being educated about. Um, so this was before cleanup. Um, you could see a lot of leaves and trash, like water bottles and plastic bags. And then after this took about from fall to spring, there's a lot less leaves, and we started kind of pulling weeds from here too. And we're also working with, we got the garden club to manage this little raised bed here, and they're going to be growing fruits and vegetables that students will be able to observe growing and then also eat them at their lunch. Um, and this also is a great kind of usage for our composting program. Um, so this is a space that actually would really benefit from nutritious soil that comes from composting. Um, and then our next program, so relatively recently in the 2016-17 school year, I believe, um, window air conditioning units were installed basically in every classroom. And while I wasn't at the school before air conditioning, I do know that I believe I've talked to students who went there at that time, and it was just kind of generally worse. Teachers, especially, have mentioned it. Um, so we do know that this is very beneficial to the student classroom experience, but because they're all each individual window units, they all run at their own settings. So, for example, some teachers will just leave them off, they won't even use them. Uh, they think their classroom is fine. But some other teachers will run them all day uh, at 60 degrees. They're set to, so they just run, they're very loud, they run all day. And then it gets too cold, so they open the windows to their classroom. And so that's obviously a huge waste of electricity. Um, so our hope is that we can develop some sort of program or device to have these run as a central unit with a central set temperature and having them run maybe before the school day starts to um, remove disruption because they are pretty loud. And it does make it tough for teachers to kind of speak with the students and students to present. So the hope is that um, we can make the student experience even better, but also reduce energy consumption and just a complete waste when you have it run all day and then open the window because it's too cold. So yeah, our general goal um, is to increase operating efficiency using the same window units. Those would be untouched, but just having them controlled smarter. That's the idea. Um, Another thing we're working on with our robotics team or robotics team, as they call themselves, is creating a trash sorting robot arm that would be able to better utilize our existing composting and recycling programs. Um, because while those are implemented already right now, they are very, very underutilized because students just generally do not have the understanding of what goes where. You see 5 bins in the lunchroom and you don't really know where your milk carton goes and then where your banana peel goes. And I have personally, and members of our club have personally taken a lot of time to try to understand the programs and try to use them. But even I am a little bit confused about where certain things go. And so having some sort of device to correct mistakes and um, make the programs more utilized because they already exist, we're already paying for them, um, would be great. And on the next slide, there is an example of one from the internet that we're kind of working on developing. Um, we didn't make this specific video, but it is very close to what we hope to get out of this project. And it's actually, the code for it is public, and we're going to use it most likely to complete the project. So here's that video. As you can see, it identifies the type of materials using the camera and its own local AI model. And it's able to move all of these objects to their own kind of category. So this is very basic, obviously, but it really hasn't been built on. And even with just a little bit of help from the robotics team, it would be really nice to be able to have some sort of device that could correct student error and really improve our general use of our composting and recycling programs. That's the main goal because we already have them. They're just so underutilized. Our next project is utilizing our partnership with our 3D printing club to create these wind turbines on site at the school in the basement. And we actually have printed out this model here, but we're still working on putting it together and getting motors and other devices to kind of track how much wind and the potential for future expansion of wind energy systems. So the whole point of this project isn't really to generate electricity because it's just you would need to scale this up so much to really have that be useful enough to justify connecting it to the grid. This is kind of just to test the viability of the idea and also see if it's really possible because with that hill and with all these different kind of characteristics around the school, I believe that there's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of wind patterns that go near and run through the school. And so this is kind of to build on that and collect data. That's the main goal here is data to back up, kind of scaling up and actually making this useful enough to connect to the grid. And that's pretty much it. One thing I would like to add on from earlier in the meeting, though, is the transit fiscal cliff. Our club Instagram is all about that cliff because most of the students get to school with public transit. And I know I'll be attending a rally tomorrow from the Better Street Chicago Active Transit Alliance to advocate for funding allocation. And from my personal knowledge, consolidation of these different organizations like the CTA or Metra, these different operators would be really helpful because some students do
Use
take.
all three.
Yeah, and they are kind of not only right now, even with kind of enough funding to operate normally, the coordination between the groups is also a problem. But yeah, I really hope that that gets funding, and I'm glad that that was mentioned in the meeting.
Well, awesome. Thank you very much, Nicholas. I know I took us 2 minutes long. Any questions for Nicholas before we end our meeting today on a high note?
First I want to say great presentation, Nicholas. There are some really incredible bird watchers in Lincoln Park, and I can connect you with some, resident Lincoln Park birders who are some of the best in the entire country, and they're younger birders as well. One of them is the chair of the New York State Avian Records Committee, so he's a really impressive guy, and he's like 28, 29 years old. If your club wants to expand into any sort of birding, there's a lot of green space, along the Lincoln Park area, near Lincoln Park Zoo, and fall migration is coming up, so I'm happy to connect you.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Oh, thank you. Any other questions for young Nicholas, who, by my counts, is getting a world of experience more than I had at his age? No? Well, thank you, everybody, for taking an hour on a Friday. And have a good weekend.
All right.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Bye-bye.
This was wonderful.
Nicholas.
Bye-bye.